What's going on, guys? CJ here, and in today's video I wanted to do a deep dive into Swag's latest video he posted yesterday that I haven't got a chance to watch yet, on what his 2024 wish list is for Heroes of Middle-earth, and to get an idea of some of the things that he says or some of the things that I personally am hoping for. And I haven't watched it yet, so I figured maybe we could all watch it together. So let's go ahead and take a look at his video. So before we dive into the video, I just wanted to bring up, this is like one of my first react type videos that I'm going to post on the channel, and I thought it'd be kind of fun because Swag, if you don't know who Swag is, which I imagine a lot of you guys do, he's an awesome content creator, makes really good guides, really good videos across the board. He's kind of like, in my opinion, the guy right now, especially in Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, sort of taking over that like Tana spot, who was here kind of before my time in the game. But he's a super cool dude. He's very active in the Discord forums and the Discord channels, etc. So I haven't seen the video yet. It's something I want to watch. You probably see I got the headsets on for the first time really in any of my videos, because obviously it'd be ridiculous to try and make my kind of points here with it playing through my speakers. So I'm gonna listen to it through my headset. But again, kind of the first time making this type of video. I was on the fence on what I wanted to do for today's video. It was either going to be sort of like watching Swag's video, which again, I haven't got a chance. So this is a, reacting as a, first time kind of viewer here. So this should be kind of fun. Just kind of getting an idea what he says and kind of giving my own opinions and agree or disagree. And the other one I was going to do that I had kind of in my pipeline of kind of videos I wanted to make was a top 10 characters I'd like to see added into the game in 2024. So let me know if you think that'd be something that'd be fun to see, kind of interesting to, get a feel for like what I hope to see if they're kind of in line with you guys are expecting. None of them are like crazy, like, yeah, I never thought of that character type of scenarios, but there are a couple in there. Like, I've watched videos of predictions and wish lists over the last couple of weeks as we got into 2024. Some of them haven't been on people's lists, so they are definitely a couple of sleepers in there. But I think that might be a video I might make later this week. I was gonna make it today, but it's getting late my time here. And I think this video will be like a little bit kind of like unwinding for myself. So, I appreciate it. And let's go ahead and watch Swag's video and see what he has to say for his wish list for 2024.
Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Your home for all content, Lord of the Rings home. I made a predictions video for 2024. But now
yeah, I do remember that. I watched that a couple of weeks ago. So let's see what Swag wants here.
About things I would love to see in the game, hopefully in the year 2024, but I'm not so sure we're going to see much of it. Maybe we'll get a few of these things. And the first thing I want to talk about are characters. It is a hero.
Hopefully we hear something this week, guys. That's the goal.
I want to see come to the game.
All right, so characters. So I just talked about making a character list here this week. Let's see what he's got on the list.
Rest of the Fellowship. By rest of the Fellowship, I mean Aragorn and Boromir. And I know there is definitely some contention about, well, Strider's already in the game. That's the non-legendary version of Aragorn. If they add Aragorn, it should be a legendary version. I think we will get a legendary version of Aragorn at some point. I don't know if the Fellowship version is necessarily legendary. I think that's probably...
So, Fellowship obviously includes these 9 characters he has a screenshot of on the screen. He wants Boromir and he wants Aragorn. I 100% agree with Aragorn. Aragorn's definitely a character that we have the pseudo Strider in the game. And he does have a leader ability. And the Fellowship has Legolas, who has a leader ability. You have Gandalf with the leadership ability. So we've already got a couple in there in contention for kind of carrying a leadership ability. But Aragorn is like a face of the game, especially if you've watched the movies, right? So seeing him added to the game is definitely somebody I do want to see this year. And then he mentions Boromir would be like another one he'd love to see added. I could see that, but Boromir is relatively new to the game on the Gondor squad side. I could also see like an Aragorn and like Frodo release, right? Like a Frodo 2.0, a Frodo added that's more Fellowship based and not Hobbit's Road to Rivendell based. So that'd be kind of cool to see, to see something like that added to the game. I could definitely get into a full Fellowship 5 because we don't have that right now. So I'm definitely on the same page as him on. Would be cool to see either one of those added.
Fellowship I would like to see that would come into the game that would maybe round out a Gandalf squad would be Boromir and Aragorn. Again, that would probably mean that we would see definitely duplicate characters. I think we will also see maybe a Frodo in there as well.
I started playing Swigo. I think I mentioned that in a couple of my videos over the last week or so. And it seems like CG is open to having multiple versions of a character in a singular game, right? Like there's multiple versions of Jedi Luke Skywalker, there's multiple versions of many characters. So I don't think having a Frodo in the game already would stop a Frodo V2, like a Fellowship Frodo, or Gandalf the Grey, but then eventually get Gandalf the White, right? Or Strider, which technically is kind of a different name, so theoretically Aragorn wouldn't be like an exact 2.0, but like a Boromir in this case that he's calling out would end up creating a Boromir who's not on the Gondor squad but on the Fellowship side, so that would be like Boromir 2.0.
So we will get our first duplicate characters. I think the Fellowship is probably the best, like, you know, group of people to get your first set of duplicate characters. I'm not particularly interested in seeing a Hobbit Fellowship squad at the moment, although I do think that that will be interesting down the line. There are 9 people in the Fellowship, though, and so I'm wondering if we will eventually get some sort of what-if version of a character to round it out to 10, or maybe, you know, we'll get something like Gollum or, yeah, that will kind of work with Sam and Frodo maybe pretty well, and then you can kind of round out who else you want in that squad based on the other side of the Fellowship. That's what I want from Fellowship. Aragorn and Boromir, that's personally what I want. Again, that's just what I want personally. It's not a judgment.
Aragorn, Boromir. I would say Aragorn, Frodo.
It's not a prediction, although I do think the Fellowship should be coming out sooner rather than later. Let's move on to the next one. I think this is a pretty obvious choice, and I feel like
I could see that.
There's actually a good number of people.
He'd probably be one of them on my top 10 list.
I want to see King Theoden in the game.
He's a Rohan king.
I don't know.
Rohan.
I'm not.
Rohan currently has Lady Eowyn leading that squad. They have 5 members already, but no one really uses Ealdred or Wilfwyn. So I could see another Rohan member added and not completely ruining, like, you know, a core 5 that's used on every team comp, because it's not really used in any team comp. They're known as the Rohan 3. And Lady Eowyn, I made a tier list of the leadership abilities, and she's by far got the worst one, so she easily has an opportunity for a replacement. So King Theoden coming in with some kind of a leadership ability. Does he have to come in as a legendary? Maybe not. But I could see him definitely as a character of interest that people would want to see in the game. He's probably going to be on my list of top 10 because he's someone who had in mind. And I think he'd be a great addition into the game, especially for the Rohan squad, and especially as a leadership ability attached to him.
Not sure I care whether he is legendary or not at the moment. I think we will eventually get a legendary version of him, but I would like to see King Theoden come into the game. We already have like a weird, like the weakened version of Theoden in the game files, and like
I didn't know that
character UI and that sort of thing.
That's interesting.
I'm not as interested in that. I think that's a cool thing to have down the road.
Okay.
But I would like to see just a regular King Theoden first and foremost. And I think there's a good possibility that we see that this year with, you know...
I should probably move myself too, huh? I didn't realize I'm just covering our buddy here. Don't really know how this works, but we'll go with that. All right.
The War of the Rohirrim movie coming later on. I think there's a good, you know, shot that that's the case. An interesting thing as well, right? I think everybody knows the Rohan 3, and you don't really use Aldred. Not a lot of people use Aldred and Wilfwyn to kind of round out that team. So there's definitely 2 slots open there, but I think King Theoden could definitely step into and hopefully replace Eowyn's leadership because it's not very good. Anyway, this is something I really think a lot of people want to see. And you know what? Actually, while you're watching the video, just go put down in the comments below some of the characters that you want to see come into the game. And then we're going to transition into some other things towards the end, quality of life stuff, game modes, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But, start off with characters. The last
Treebeard, Fangorn.
I want to see added to the game
could be a good large light character. We don't have one. Oh.
Character, which is Treebeard.
Look at you go, Swag.
I would like to see generally Ents in general.
Ents, yeah.
Generally Ents in general. I think Treebeard makes the most sense.
He's notable.
We talked about this before on the channel. It's hard to do a full Ent team, right? Because I think they would.
Yeah, they're all large.
Considered large characters, and you're just not. You can't have 5 large characters. I do think it would be really awesome to kind of pick and choose, though, and then later on build out some more of the Ent stuff, right? With named, unnamed characters like the Haradrim squad, for instance. But you could have that. You could have Ent wives. I think that would be a really cool direction to take the game. They said it wasn't on their like near-term sort of map back in last year, but that it was definitely a possibility. I'm hoping it comes in 2024. Let's switch to shadow characters. And I think...
Yeah, so kind of talking about Treebeard. He makes a good point. I think it would be a cool character added, and it would be a solid choice for a light side large character. But do you add like one Ent, right? And make it so he's like kind of a faction of his own? Sort of like the wargs are now, but you'd expect more wargs to be added? Or is there a way that you could have more Ents? So we're calling them Ents because I'm so used to playing Hearthstone and like they're essentially tree ants or World of Warcraft, you know. But yeah, that's a tough one because you couldn't have more than one large character, and how would like one of these not be a large character, you know? So yeah, they'd have to think of something where you could have like non-large versions of them if they want to have like a full Ent squad, but I'm not sure how they go about that one.
This is probably another classic pick I think a lot of people want to see. I want to see more wargs. I think there's an actual legitimate option that they could do more wargs, especially if they decide to go like sort of a Gundabad or Orc route for doing more shadow characters in the near term here. I just want to have a full warg squad, go to the dog pound. I think that would just be a lot of fun to have in the game. Nick
more
Reinhardt,
wargs.
the game director, did say when he was sort of talking about their roadmap for the next year, what they have sort of laid out, that they were sort of chasing some cool things. And I think that this is one of the, just the warg in general, I think is a really cool thing to chase and have in game. And I think it's been received very well. I like the warg kit. I haven't quite built him up on either of my accounts, but I like the way that they introduced the warg. All right, let's talk about another one.
Some spooters.
We will get a spider at some point, and I think it could be...
So this is another one on my list of top 10. I'm not sure what direction he's going to go here with spiders, but for me, spiders, Shalab, right? Shalab, I'm not sure how you say it, but sort of like the big beastie spider that, what was it? Frodo and Sam had a fight off in the movie. I think that would be really cool to add to the game in some sort of like single boss raid fight of sorts. I don't know like how the mode would look, but like in other games you have like the raid that consists of multi boss phases, and then you have like the one clan boss, right, that you could fight daily or weekly or whatever the cadence would be, where again you get personal and guild level rewards. But I feel like she or he, I'm not even sure, would be like a perfect boss, right? Like a large spider throwing poisons at you, stacking them. Like there's so many ways you could easily build up like a spider boss. I think that'd be pretty cool. We'll see what he says here.
Related to Dol Guldur, the necromancer, basically, right, Sauron, when he was at Dol Guldur, started breeding these spiders in there, basically taking over Mirkwood, is my understanding, right? I think that would be a really interesting way to slot in a large character. If it worked with the Dol Guldur faction, that would be really
so
awesome.
He's going in the direction of...
Let's get the spiders going, right? I think
a spider team.
A large part of the Lord of the Rings universe.
Be interesting.
Reading about the Ungoliants.
And we have the dogs, the wargs, so why not some spiders?
Part of the Lord of the Rings lore. I think this is a good direction to take.
I think I'd rather them as like an enemy that we fight, whether you're dark or light, or shadow or light.
Too many large characters.
And not
maybe some possible ways to work around that with
not necessarily a
not make them as large,
like a usable character.
They did say that
interesting.
There would be a shadow large character that would fit into a squad into an interesting way that hopefully will be coming soon. This is what I hope it is. I would like to see
definitely be interesting.
The game. I think that would be really awesome. Game modes. It's Saruman. I would like to
see
Saruman come to the game. He is pictured here.
That is no surprise. Saruman is
games. Or sorry, basketball games.
Is obviously going to be your perfect Gandalf versus Saruman situation. Like the next raid, we unlocked Gandalf in the first raid, some sort of unlock in the second raid that they release hopefully this year at some point should be Saruman. Or as more people get Gandalf, we should see Saruman added into potentially the game, because of having that like that just clash of the two wizards of the Lord of the Rings is like what's better than that, right? Like just Gandalf versus Saruman.
And getting all of the right choices. So I think it would be a really cool way to have not like Hobbit Saruman before he's like completely corrupted or whatnot, but definitely evil Saruman. Give the shadow side a little bit of a boost. I think that would make complete sense. You know, he can have interactions with the Dunlin, he can have interactions with the orcs. I think it would just be really awesome as sort of a good juxtaposition against Gandalf, and people starting in the next few months here, either having gotten Gandalf or starting to unlock Gandalf or being close to unlocking Gandalf. I
Exactly
think
what I
this would be
said.
a really cool legendary to then put out
Some way to get him into the game
them, right? You got the two wizards
as we're getting closer and closer for more free-to-play players getting Gandalf. I'm still pretty far away, so
that's what
to me it feels like most people will be closer
to play out
to a Gandalf unlock when potentially the next raid is getting closer to release, which could be Saruman.
Sort of my 2024 wish list, but let's
okay, so some of the characters he on his list were on my top 10 list in my mind. So that's cool. That's good to know, like we're on the same page on characters that he'd like to see added to the game and that I had kind of in the back of my mind. There's still like a half dozen others, 4 or 5 that I think would be pretty cool to add to the game. And not to like give away or spoil alert my video, but like Lady Galadriel, like she comes to mind from watching the movies, would be like a really cool like elf added to the game. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to give away the spoilers of some of the characters that I had in mind, so I'm not going to give them away in this video, but she's one like right off the top of my head. It's like, man, she's just like the female version of like a Lord Elrond, right? Like she's just a super powerful elf.
I don't care if it's guild versus guild. I don't care if it's some sort of territory battles where it's just like another guild.
What is this, Helm's Deep
mode? I want Helm's Deep in some form or another to come to this game.
That'd be cool.
We have this wide,
not sure how they add it, but
landscape set up and written by Tolkien, right? This fantastical world, and inside of that world, these massive sweeping battles that proved to be very cinematic in nature when they made movies about it. I think when you think about Lord of the Rings, when you talk to people about Lord of the Rings, especially maybe not people who are like very into the lore, but just like your casual Lord of the Rings enjoyer, right? What is one of the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the Battle of Helm's Deep. I want to see them do this in the game. I really like how they laid out the Mines of Moria. Graphically, that sort of interface, I think they did a really good job, and I think they could do an equally good job by setting up the Helm's Deep in a meaningful way. This is one of the things I want out of a Lord of the Rings game. I just remember growing up, watching the Lord of the Rings movies, and then playing Lord of the Rings video games, and doing anything in Helm's Deep was like my absolute favorite. So personally, this is really,
Swag?
really what I want.
It's funny because Swag is probably like around my age, you know, like I'd assume late 20s, early 30s. And so he probably grew up playing some classic video games, you know, on the old Xbox and such. And I remember playing some of the early Lord of the Rings games, like post movies, you know, so like the early 2000s. And what a time, you know, like just thinking back to those days of playing the games and like just picking one of the heroes and getting in there. And again, like just having these battle scenes of Helm's Deep and such, like good times playing with some friends on couch co-op, which doesn't really exist anymore now with everyone online and stuff. So shows my age.
Let's switch over to talking about multi-squad PvP. I'll switch to the game here.
Okay, so those are that's a pretty interesting take though, Helm's Deep, some sort of fashion of adding that.
I want multi-squad PvP to be good, and one thing I want to mention
well, we know that's
I've been
coming.
thinking about a little bit. There's this kind of they said that multi-squad PvP was going to be daily, and that is something that has stuck with me since they
I didn't know that.
Because right now, the way that they do this type of system in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the other CG game, right, is they kind of do it every other day. So, like, you can do your defense setting up and sort of scouting, that sort of thing, against your opponent one day, and then you sort of move and do the attack phase the second day. And so it's every...
Yeah, multi-squad PvP is going to be an interesting take in the game because I don't think they're going to have multi-squad PvP in the current arena system. I feel like they're going to replace it. At least that's my understanding. And I don't think the current arena system is like good in any way. But I do know from the past week or so playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, there are multiple versions of arena in the game. There is your just standard battle like you currently have in this game as it stands today. Then there is the fleet battles, which obviously we don't have any kind of ships or any sort of non-character type fights at least now in the game. And then when you get into the Grand Arena, I think is what it's called. I haven't actually participated in that yet. Again, I'm only just started playing 4 or 5 days ago, so it's completely new to me. But from the videos I've watched, it looks like you have like what, 6 teams, possibly 6 built out teams you can have, which like in that game I think it's like 3 teams and then like 3 ship teams. I could be completely wrong. Again, I haven't really even dabbled in that. But I didn't know it was like a defense phase for one day and then like an attack phase the next day. So that would be interesting because that wouldn't really be that exciting if all I'm doing, like, because I don't have a big enough roster, probably nobody does, right? To be able to like completely change defensive setups. Like you probably only have the 25 or however many teams are participating in multi-squad arena that can be on your roster to even be a power level of participation, right? So if all I'm doing is like resetting my defensive squad, it doesn't really sound like I'd be doing much on every other day arena, and that kind of sounds boring. It's like a mode added into the game that should be adding more time that I'm spending in the game. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big make or break when they add multi-squad PvP to this game.
The other day, they said they wanted to move it to daily. What I've realized is I don't know what they mean by that. Do they mean, is setting your defenses and doing the scouting considered like a daily activity for this?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it to me.
Both the defensive placement and the attacking in one day. I'm not sure. I'm very eager for it, though. I do think it'll be the next game mode. I think it will be coming in Q1.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get it in the next week or so, or month or two.
I want multi-squad PvP to be good because I think that could really make or break the game for a lot of people. We need to phase out Arena. I think people who got into Shard 1 and didn't spend a lot of money, people who are free to play, are sick and tired of being in Shard 1, which, by the way, is still an incredibly active Shard. Right? A lot of those people, it's probably because of sunken cost fallacy, a lot of those people have stuck around and are continuing to play the game.
Yeah, I would say the design, I mean, but to be fair, I'm pretty sure in Swigo right now, it's the same kind of concept in the regular arena. Because I created an account and I'm probably in some, hundreds and hundreds number Shard. Who knows where I'm at. And like I'm playing against people who have like similar account levels, like, new player, actually winnable teams. So I'm not playing against people who already have like very well developed accounts, obviously, so it's like a new player Shard. And in this game, if you started playing on day 1 and you were in Shard 1, you probably have a lot of people who are, again, like Swag mentioned, who are invested because maybe sunken cost, right? Like they've added or spent so much money in the game. They're just like, they got to keep playing. They don't want to like throw that money away. But yeah, that's a big problem. The Shard system is kind of not great, but I mean, it's generally how you see a lot of the mobile games work. They put you into like a Shard and then you kind of battle for those spots within each of the ranks to get your payouts. But it would be nice if there was some kind of like way that they could get away from that system and have like an open system that like everyone's kind of participating in, so you're not kind of like locked to a Shard. And depending on when you started playing this game, kind of depends on where you are. But I mean, to be fair, like if you were just started today and you were in Shard 20 or whatever it is at this point, 25, like everybody else is kind of in that same page, and you're always going to have your whales or whatever that are going to put money into the game and just kind of edge over everybody else, especially early on into a Shard to get to the top. But again, Shard 1, if it's a very active Shard, a lot of big spenders, and you're in there, but you weren't a big spender, you were free to play, like you are at a huge disadvantage where probably your gold is like max level, like gear 8, gear 9, level 60, like blah, 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 talking 60,000, 70,000 power squads, which the Shard I'm in, which I think I found out yesterday or the day before, Shard 11, is, like I'm fighting against 40,000 squads in a high silver, low gold. So, so we're like obviously a few months behind like a Shard 1. And that makes sense because I started a few months later than a Shard 1 player would have started back in April.
We got to mix it up. I want to switch to a league system. I want to not.
Yeah, like a league system would be cool.
I want to figure out what is good, what is not good in PvP, right? I mean, that's the big problem with Arena. You have a defensive team, and it's either also your offensive team or you just have an offensive team, and that sort of limits thinking about the game in another dimension in terms of PvP. So that needs to come out definitely before guild versus guild, so that you can kind of feel out the waters for counters. not counters. I want multi-squad to be really good. I'm curious how they're going to mix it up, how they're going to make it.
They need it to be.
Is it going to just be the same? I hope it's a little bit different, a little bit more thematic.
Addition to the game.
In the container of the Lord of the Rings universe, make it thematically, make it a little bit more sense. Okay. That's what I kind of, those are the big game modes that I want in 2024. Let's talk about quality of life features. I can just sort of rattle some off. They've talked about it, right? They released glyphs without all of the quality of life stuff attached to it. I think that that is something that they are still working on. It is something I would like to see in 2024.
Glyphs.
That is on my wish list.
We've talked about glyphs on my channel. Yeah.
I don't want to have to press 4 buttons to sell one glyph.
I'm close to max out on glyphs, and I hate having to click into each one of them. And then the bug too, where sometimes you click on a character, you click on a glyph, and then you like, I think you click upgrade or sell or whatever happens, and then it like freezes, so you got to go back to the first screen and do it all. It's brutal. Selling these one by one when you can have hundreds and hundreds of them is just insane. Absolutely insane.
Can actually easily swap glyphs to different teams in different chapters of the raid, make that more of a viable strategy for the average player than, you know, not doing that and having to remember which glyphs you put on and writing stuff down or taking screenshots. I just don't want to do that. So glyph quality of life, and this is going to be a hot take. I actually think glyph quality of life should come before any sort of save squad feature. I actually don't think the save squad feature I think personally,
for what?
So like if we just go to the raids here,
you can just go to previous attempt, right?
Save squad function in arena, because of course not. But I actually think that this previous attempts button here,
totally agree,
shows you what you did last time. I think that this is definitely satisfactory for raids at the moment.
Yep.
When multi-squad PvP,
I didn't even know if that was like on a wish list of many people. Save squad
function that needs to come with it, and then that
I could see that being like, okay, that's nice, but
glyph quality of life kind of trumps that. One other thing I think while we're here in the raids, I think a good quality of life feature that I still think is good, even post glyphs, will be banking a score. Basically,
banking a score.
Do a run, bank a score, and then you can use that run later, that score later, so that, you know, okay, I'm going to see if I can get a higher score, but if I can't, I'm just going to use my banked run, and then I'm good. So that way, if you don't have to worry about, like, okay, was that the perfect run? Or am I going to have to spend, you know...
I don't know. I don't know if I like that one. Like, it adds the layer of, like, regret, I guess, for if you know, like, let's say you're trying to push 1.5 million and you get like 1.4 and you're like, oh man, 1.4, like, let me try to get 1.5, but then you run it a couple more times and you can't even get back to 1.4 because the RNG just wasn't on your side. I could see the frustration that, like, you know, you got to 1.4, now you can't get to it again. But like, that's kind of like the risk reward, right? Like, you took the chance to try to get a stronger score and now you can't, so you kind of have to just take what your next best one is, or you have to keep going at it. You know, at that point, it's like why not add a feature that says, oh, if you use the exact same team you did the raid with, you can use last week's score. So you don't even have to participate. You can just take last week's score. So if you scored a 1.5 million and, like, you know, like, you're not going to try to attempt the next tier, you can just bank essentially a max score on a team possibly and not even try to, you know, even participate. Like, just like throw all your scores in from last week or however long you want to just kind of keep throwing them in. Like, sure, it's from a convenience factor, it's great, but then, like, if you could do those types of things in this game, like, what would you even do in this game, you know?
2 more hours getting the perfect RNG to even approach that. I think that would actually alleviate a lot of the frustration that people have with the raid. I know, to me, the RNG seems to decrease significantly, both with the Chapter 1 changes and now that we have glyphs. I think that there are ways to really mitigate the RNG. I still think it's a problem for a lot of people, and I think that this is a very, very good way to mitigate that. So that's one thing I want to see. There's another thing, you know, a few
I can see, like,
this 4-hour chest.
I could see that, but
I think is great. I think it needs
what about the chest?
To have the characters that become farmable automatically placed into it. That's another one.
I did not know that.
It's not high on the list, but I think it's just eventually.
So this chest can only include the original characters from the game, like the 46 or whatever?
So people can start getting shards for that.
I did not know that.
Challenge shop obviously needs to be
okay.
fixed.
Yeah, that would be something they should add.
Wish list.
Challenge shop, yes, that's on everybody's wish list.
Players to get
campaigns. A lot of these are the things that I kind of called out on my 2024 wish list back a few weeks ago. Yes. How is this not a thing in this game? I mentioned this in a video before. I don't think it was necessarily on my wish list, but not everybody uses Discord. And as far as I know, the only place that they post anything is Discord, which as a Discord user doesn't really like affect me, but they already have an inbox and they have a news tab. Like, how are the notes not just in there? Or how is there not a link to the Discord if you want to get more people to join it, or a link to your website with the notes? People log into this game and get updates on the phone. They probably don't read the notes on the phone if they're even there. I want to be honest with you. I auto update, so I never go to the app on my phone. And you're coming into the game, you don't even know what's changed. You like, if you're not following this game by some of the content creators like Swag or Veiled Shot or myself or whoever, how do you know when characters are added without just going to your collection, scrolling down to go, oh wow, Thorn's been added to the game. Oh wow, there's an event. Like, there's no reason for a game to not have patch notes in the game.
On the website, like kit reveals and stuff, but they don't actually post the patch notes on the website. They only do that in the Discord, and then they leave it to people like me to disseminate that information out, which, sure, thank you very much, but there's actually a good chunk of people who aren't on the Discord who don't watch YouTube videos, right? And I think that they should have access to that information
100%
via some sort of in-game mail, or maybe something that directs them to the website that also has the list of patch notes. Let's see. The last thing I want in this game, my wish list for 2024,
what is it?
Is the ability to pet the warg. If we're gonna get more than one warg, we should also be able to pet all of the wargs.
Pet the warg.
Let me find him. Oh, it's all the way at the bottom. That's what W is.
Wasn't there an ability to spin the characters that you can't even do anymore?
Be able to click and pet the warg. I think that
I'll take the ability just to spin the characters again.
Is a legitimate use of
that's funny.
These resources.
All right, so interesting. A lot of stuff he said I agree with. A lot of stuff he said are things that I noted as well. So I think a lot of people are on the same page on, you know, the things that we want in this game. Like, there's not a lot of surprises, right? Like, we want multi-squad PvP. We want glyph quality of life cleanup. We want new characters added to the game. We want another raid, right? Like, we want new modes. Patch notes, like, we just get those in the game. I don't understand. This should not just be only on Discord. But anyways, I thought this would be fun, kind of like a fun, sort of easier kind of idea video. I mean, we're really lacking on content right now because there's just nothing over a month now from CG. So I'm really hoping tomorrow we get some news and I can actually create some content behind that news, whether it be the patch notes, whether it be new character reveals, whether it be new modes, new anything. Just give me something instead of trying to just pull together top 10 lists and tier lists. And, you know, those things are fun to do, but it'd be a little, you know, it'd be nice to have some actual content to share with you guys. So this one was fun. I haven't seen this. I wanted to watch it anyways. I thought, what the hell, I'm in the room, I got my headphones on, let's just record and do kind of a reacts video, right? So let me know if you guys like this kind of stuff. I'd assume a lot of you have already seen this or know who Swag is, but if not, definitely go to his channel. Pretty sure it's YouTube Swag LotR. So definitely give him a subscribe to his channel if you haven't. Watch the video, give him a like, all that fun stuff. Great content creator. He's kind of the face of LotR, Heroes of Middle-earth. So thought this would be a fun one, but yeah, this one's going a lot longer just because, you know, I'm trying to react and add my own 2 cents on top of his video. So this one's kind of a longer one, but I appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.